Welcome, everybody, to Sports Shorts Daily. Ronnie Rance, Tommy Christ, and TK over at Court Street Cafe this morning in downtown Port Allen, right next to the hometown of Casey McKenzie, who grew up in Back Bruley, the fighter for tonight, this week's big showdown on the 13th. Today on Sports Shorts, we're going to talk about the Saints. What a clunker it was on Sunday for the Saints to end the season. They were a favorite at home. They led 7-0 at halftime, and then they just absolutely do nothing in the second half, which was kind of the theme of the year. And then they end up missing a field goal with a minute and change to go, and then Carolina goes right down the field, drives down, makes the game-winning field goal. So the Saints finished with only 7 wins on the year. Remember, over and under in Vegas was 8.5. And now we wait to see what happens. Dennis Allen, will he be back as the head coach? Will Sean Payton come back, or will it be business as usual? We do know this. The Saints restructured their contract on Michael Thomas. That spells the end is near on him. We'll get into that. Also, LSU's men's and women's, the Tigers, feeling good about themselves after the first 2 games. They win against Arkansas when they were a ranked opponent at home. They lose a close one on the road in Kentucky. But then they go and play not a very good Texas A&M team, and they get beat by double digits when they were a 5-point dog. So if you're betting against LSU basketball, Tommy, I think if you bet against LSU over the last 10 games, you're like 7-3. This is just not a good team. Kentucky's not very good. Arkansas played terrible. LSU played over its skis. Arkansas was missing a couple starters. I just don't think this is a very good team. They're going to struggle to score points all year, so you may want to continue to kind of trend that way. Also, LSU's women are 16-0 and off to a great start. They play Thursday against Missouri. The men, by the way, will be at the PMAC on Tuesday against Florida, a team that looks just like themselves. Florida's 8-7, tougher schedule, and they're 1-2 in the conference, just like LSU. So that should be a winnable game for LSU at the PMAC. We'll see what happens. NFL, wild and crazy in the final week of the year, the final weekend of the year. The playoffs are set. We'll get Tommy Christand's reaction to that and a whole lot more. But first, let's talk a little Saints, TK. Your reaction yesterday to what we saw transpire as 7 points in a league and a team that has Olave and Kamara playing is a little surprising.
Wow, I watched most of that game. I had picked the Saints -3 at meatandpotatoesusa.com. By the way, picks for the title game tonight will be posted no later than 4 p.m. at meatandpotatoesusa.com. But the Saints, they kind of looked good, looked a little sharp. The defense was solid. You can't lose a football game when you allow 10 points, okay, and the other quarterback completed 5 passes for 42 or 43 yards. All right? That's just no excuse for that. Now, the social media, as we expected, blowing up. Get rid of Dennis Allen. Get rid of Pete Carmichael. Get rid of them all. Blah, blah, blah. What will Gail Benson do? Now, it's up to Gail Benson. It's up to Mickey Loomis and his staff as to what will happen next. But that was just not a good effort, I didn't think, especially in the second half by the Saints. Wasn't a big crowd. Kind of looked like a preseason game. Maybe a little more than that. But the Saints, you can look back and blame Mark Ingram for what he did running out of bounds against Tampa. By the way, Tampa finishes 8-9. They host a playoff game. They host the Cowboys this week. The Saints, the Panthers, and the Falcons all finished 7-10. So you tied for last. Now, I don't know how the tiebreaker would shake that out, but you're 7-10. The effort, the couple of games you blew, you might have got lucky once. It's if you're a Saints fan, and all of us in the media, by the way, it's going to be an interesting couple of weeks, couple of months. And, Ronnie, the general consensus of the media guys in New Orleans is that Michael Thomas will never play for the Saints again. Right. I know you and I and Hunter, we speculated on Sports Shorts Radio about that the other day when we saw the contract restructure thing. But, the consensus of the gurus down there in New Orleans, I follow most all of them on social media, they don't think Michael Thomas plays another day for the New Orleans Saints.
By the way, the Saints technically finished 3rd in their division, which matters because of the way the NFL schedules next year. If you finish 4th, you technically on paper are supposed to get an easier schedule than if you finish third or finish second. There's a little formula they use. But obviously in the NFL, teams change so much from year to year. You can see what the schedule looks like and based off of finishes last year, and it's not necessarily going to help you any. But for the sake of the argument, Carolina finished second, the Saints finished third, and the Dirty Birds finished fourth. And I know, Tommy, things would have probably gone differently in that last game as far as the Tampa Bay and Tom Brady and all that kind of playing the whole time. But the Saints, technically, if you just look at it, you beat Tampa Bay in New Orleans when you're up 15, 14, up 13 with 5 and change to play, or 5 minutes to go or whatever, 4 and change to play. Then obviously you win 8, they win 7, and you're the division champs and hosting a playoff game. I mean, that's the easiest way to look at it. And probably that happens, right? Because I don't think that the New Orleans Saints, if they've got their playoff life on the line yesterday against Carolina, lay that egg. I just can't believe it. The dome would have been packed. It would have been rocking. And I don't think the Saints would have lost that game had it been for their playoffs. So Mark Ingram, I mean, it's really that simple. If Mark Ingram doesn't step out of bounds on 3rd and 1, and even though he was hurt, his knee was tweaking, his hamstring, whatever, if he just dips inside and falls forward instead of stepping out of bounds, they get the first down.
Roll.
Yeah, just mathematically, or just stay in bounds, whatever. Mathematically, they wouldn't have won the game. And it's just unbelievable to think, as bad as this team is. Now, this team does not deserve to go to the playoffs. Let me put it like that. This was a terrible division. It reminded me of the NFC East from a handful of years ago that was so bad. Nobody deserved to go to the playoffs out of this division, but the Saints deserved to because they were the better team than Tampa that night, and somehow they just gifted Tom Brady and the Bucs a win right there. But needless to say, I'm really curious to see what happens this offseason, because I know you and I differ on the fact that I think there's no chance Sean Payton comes back to the Saints, and we know that the Saints have given the Denver Broncos clearance to speak with Sean Payton. That was reported yesterday, day before. So they will talk after January something coming up, 13th or something.
Well, and Jim Harbaugh is interviewing with Denver this week. And, of course, Harbaugh is going to leave because he's got tagged with a level 1 violation at Michigan. And I want to make a quick comment on that. You got millions of dollars being thrown around in the NIL, and Harbaugh bought a hamburger for a kid in a little hamburger joint, place similar to Coach Street Cafe here in Port Allen, for a recruit. And then he kind of wasn't real honest about it when the NCAA questioned him.
Right.
Okay, he bought like the girl that washed her car out in Portland a couple of years ago, and they penalized her because that was the university's water. But come on, NCAA. And if Harbaugh lied about it, okay, you got to get the consequences. But buying a hamburger for a kid, or schools poaching players out of the transfer portal, poaching players who aren't in the transfer portal with hundreds of thousands of dollars, brand new pickup trucks, vehicles, whatever. NCAA is a mess.
NCAA is a bunch of wimps. I mean, they want to pick this low hanging fruit instead of really doing anything. You're right, Tommy. Guys are literally going to coaches and saying, "Hey, if I don't get more money, I'm leaving. I'm going somewhere else," and that's okay. But like these stupid little goofy rules, are not. By the way, just came out. Bill Belichick going to be back for the 24th season next year. He'll turn 71 in April. The Patriots obviously finished 8-9. They played the Bills tough. They were tied at halftime. They took the lead in the third quarter, but then, 2 kickoff returns, and you can't overcome that, those free points, and they end up losing to finish 8-9, didn't make the playoffs. But Bill Belichick saying he doesn't want to go out like that, going to be back for a 71st year. You surprised?
Not really. I mean, Belichick's one of them guys, like, what else is he going to do? And he's probably not going to go to TV. If there's an NFL coach that we know that's not going to go to TV one day, even definitely like, not him. I mean, he might do like the 5-minute-a-week radio segment in New England just because he's beloved by Patriot fans and his record speaks for itself. So I'm not surprised. I mean, what else is Belichick going to do? I know he likes to play a little bit of golf, but he's all about football. And in my mind, Bill Belichick's going to, start this morning saying, what do I got to do to make my team better? And he's doing that this morning.
Did the Texans fire Lovie Smith because
Yes.
he went for 2 and cost them a chance at they would have had the first pick if they don't win yesterday over the Colts. Instead, they win. Great. You get 3 wins on the year. And then now the Texans are going to have the second pick overall in the draft.
Well, there was a big discussion on the Dan Patrick show this morning as I was driving to Port Allen. They had Matt Hasselbeck, former NFL player who works for ESPN, and he's going, hey, players want to win. But Hasselbeck did finally say, you line up for 2 and you run the ring around the rosy play that the Chiefs ran the other day, or you do one of them triple reverse go back, and then if it don't work, you get the number 1 draft choice. But, they ran like the regular 5-yard and out tight end whip route trying to get the touchdown or the conversion. So a lot of talk about that this morning. But to me, I think they fire Lovie Smith no matter what. If they were going to keep it, they would keep him for going for 2. But he's out after 1 year with the Texans. We saw college coaches getting whacked. Sean Wells, former Tiger footballer, says, how about them Lions getting it done and keeping the Packers out of the playoffs, which then allowed the Seahawks to get in, although they got to play Frisco. So, and then the other great story, I think, is Jacksonville. They have to fire Urban Meyer last year because he's so terrible and he's a bad human being, number 1. And, he couldn't handle the NFL as a coach. And then Doug Peterson comes in, and all of a sudden, boom, you're in the playoffs. You win your division, which speaks to, Ronnie, a topic you and I talked about on the radio the other day, and Hunter and Derry. Sean McVay with the Rams contemplating sitting out.
Right.
And then Doug Peterson sat out, kind of came back as a better Doug Peterson. Mike McCarthy sat out a few years back, came back, quote unquote, as a better Mike McCarthy. They're saying that's what McVay might want to do with the Rams.
But the situation.
They sat out.
Those guys got fired.
But Peterson had won a Super Bowl.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, like Peterson and McCarthy, those guys got fired. And then as soon as they could get a job, took a job. McVay's got a job. I mean, nobody's going to fire him. And at 36 years old, you need to sit out. I mean, that just doesn't make any sense.
Again, I'm just paraphrasing what I heard, on the, you know how much I love the Dan Patrick show, and I think it's a quality show.
Yeah. I mean, I don't get what you need to sit out for. Unless you just say, look, man, I'm having chest pains and the stress of this is way more than I ever thought it would be. And
the people that know
and go with that. But
the people that know him say he's like a Saban and a Belichick. I mean, if he's awake, it's all about football. That he's not one of these guys, he is like totally committed. I mean, I don't know if you can burn out at 36, and that word became popular years ago, but they say he is a workaholic. Now, I'm just throwing that in there to people that have been around him.
So that the McVay situation is interesting because would Sean Payton be interested in being the head coach of the Los Angeles Rams if indeed he does step away? Because, obviously you've got Matt Stafford there, a guy under contract, a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, a Super Bowl champion. I would, and not somebody that Sean Payton's got to go, develop. I mean, if he's healthy, Sean Payton can just help him be elite. And Matthew Stafford over there with his experience and his arm and everything else and his toughness, every bit could be a top 5-6 quarterback in the league under a Sean Payton potentially.
Yeah, no question. It's going to be an interesting couple of weeks for a lot of NFL teams, including, the Saints who are right down the road from us in New Orleans. Lots of things going to happen with the Saints in the offseason. Who knows when we'll get the first whatever announcement, but it's coming.
Bears first pick, Texans second pick. Obviously, the Saints right now have no first round pick. Yeah,
they would have had the 10th pick. That's what it ended up going to Philadelphia. So, because I looked through the whole list, and Philadelphia via trade with New Orleans, so it would have been the 10th pick if they hadn't traded it away. Most people think they're going to get a first round pick from whoever does a contract with Sean Payton. That's what the Saints are asking for, minimum first round pick, and then who knows what else would be thrown in with, just depending on which organization.
as far as the Saints go, Will Lutz, they gave him that big contract a couple years ago, Tommy, but he's not been good this year. And of course, straight up really cost them the game. I mean, in the NFL, at home, in a dome, a field goal under 45 yards, that should be almost like 95% make, 95 plus.
What? Not only should it be 95%, but the miss shouldn't be a duck hook hitting the cheerleaders in the head. Okay, you hit the upright, you push it just a fraction wide. Shouldn't happen indoors. But, that one kick he hit was, look out cheerleaders. This duck hook looked like a Casey McKenzie drive off the first hole at Greystone. Look out for this duck hook coming.
It was extremely disappointing because as bad as the Saints played with just over a minute to go, they could have won that freaking game, and we'd be feeling a whole lot better about the Saints with 8 wins and winning a bunch in a row to finish the year and all that stuff. But Lutz was a klutz when it came to this year. I'm curious to see what they do there, if they're going to try to get out of that deal or bring in a kicker in camp.
I'm sure they're going to bring one in. They may put some pressure on him. We'll just see. And it'll depend on who the head coach is.
I couldn't stand the uniform combination yesterday.
It was the worst ever. They wore that when Bum Phillips was a coach in the early 80s. When Jim Mora got with the Saints, 84 or 5, whatever that was, he said, hey, let's do the gold pant thing. So that also got blistered on social media. Like, that's the worst combo. If it had a stripe down the
that's the thing, Tommy. When Bum Phillips was there, it had a stripe down the side. I didn't mind it.
Yeah, that's the other thing. A lot of comments were they had the piping or the stripe down the side of the pant.
Right.
But it almost looked like the practice pants that, wait, we forgot to bring the game pants, like the Florida or the A&M manager last week. Forgot to bring the game pants. So, hey, guys, we're going to wear these white things that we normally wear when we practicing. That's what it looked like.
It was terrible. The other thing, it was terrible. Also, another thing that's terrible down in New Orleans is a ton of cars got broken into, some stolen, some busted, items taken out of cars yesterday. Saw all kinds of stuff on social media. And this is days after the interim police chief came out down there and said, hey, nothing to see here. We got a new plan. This is, we're going to be fine. And they just ran right through all the parking lots and did damage.
The same thing after the Pelicans game the other night. And I'm assuming most people know those buildings are literally 100 yards apart. If that might be less than 100, and they've said they're going to address it, and they didn't address it. You had some people saying, "Hey, when I go, I expect my window to get broke," and then if I come to the car and it's not broke, then I'm happy. So it's an issue. And look, Super Bowl's supposed to be in New Orleans in 2025. Don't think the NFL is not watching. Somebody in the NFL office is reading all these reports about this stuff, and they're going to contact the city of New Orleans and say, "What are you going to be doing it?" about it.
It's terrible, Tommy. It's terrible. And how about this? People were calling the police, and they didn't have enough police to go do the reports, to go to the parking lots or whatever. They literally posted like hey, here, go online and file a complaint or call Crime Stoppers or whatever. New Orleans is an absolute shit show right now. It is an absolute mess. They don't have enough police, and the ones they got don't want to do their job. It's terrible, and it hasn't affected them yet, but it's going to. They're going to stop getting events, and that city survives on tourism and conventions and everything else. It's going to start having an effect right now. People are going to stop planning and go until they get their act together. I can't bring my company there.
Well, I agree 100%, not just sports related, but, it's a convention town, and then you got the Final Four. All these people are going to say, or even a regional in the NCAA basketball tournament, they're going to start saying, hey, we're going to go somewhere else. And in New Orleans, it's just another thing on the long list of problems with the city of New Orleans that seem to grow every day. They got to figure out a way to do something about it, or the state's got to step in. You're right. It's a mess.
The Saints are going to have to invest money themselves in security. They're going to have
Saints
armed
/
guards.
Pelicans, yeah.
The Saints and Pelicans are going to have armed guards that they hire to work to work the parking lots and patrol them and all that kind of stuff, because you cannot count on the New Orleans police. The few that they have, they don't want to do their job. They're just simply getting paid. I mean, you see them if you go down Canal, they'll just be huddled together in the middle of the neutral ground, kind of by the streetcars. They just don't want to get involved for a lot of reasons. One, just this lack of respect that the people have in general for the police these days. They say yell stop, they don't. There's a foot chase. You can't tase them, you can't shoot them, you can't put your hands on them. I mean, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. So unfortunately, a lot of the malaise is set in with police forces, not just in New Orleans but around the country, and they just don't. And so it's up to individuals, the citizens, to carry if they so choose. And I think a lot of businesses are going to have to hire armed security. Unfortunately, these are things that people do in third world countries. These are things that people do in other countries. I've traveled and been to other countries, Tommy, where every bank has a guy with a machine gun by the front door. That's what it's like in Colombia and places like that. That's almost what some of these major cities like New Orleans are becoming. You're going to have to take care of yourself and not rely on anybody else.
I agree 100. Unfortunately, I agree with you. You're hitting the nail on the head. And, I grew up in the city of New Orleans. It was a great city when I was running around the French Quarter and surrounding areas, but it's not the same anymore.
Before we talk about tonight's national championship game, I want to tell you about the event this Friday night. We are literally 5 days away from the best Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame fundraiser, the most anticipated, how about that we've ever had. That's this Friday, the 13th, and at Lamar Dixon Expo Center in Gonzales. 7 pro wrestling matches, 1 celebrity boxing match for the ages. Ryan Maranto and Casey McKenzie going to be going at it, a 3-round bout, but we're going to have lots of celebrities. The production level of this thing is off the charts. Think WWE level production, but here in Baton Rouge. Lots of special guests, lots of surprises, some that you don't even know about, Tommy, that are going to be blow people's minds away. It's going to be a lot of fun, and it's fun for the whole family too. You can get tickets at lasportshall.com right on your screen. Like and share this video, pass the word around. Here's a little commercial about this Friday night's big event.
On down.
The Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame presents Friday the 13th Night Fights. 7 pro wrestling matches January 13th at the Lamar Dixon Expo Center, and 1 celebrity boxing match for the ages. Pro Wrestling 225 and Gulf States Wrestling will feature 7 matches, 4 of which will be for championship belts. All the proceeds to benefit the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame Foundation, Dreams Come True, and St. Jude. Get your tickets now, because the main event, Glitz vs. Grits, will take place immediately following the wrestling, featuring Casey the Rougarou McKenzie. From Back Bruley, no career wins, but no career losses. And he will take on Ryan, the Pied Piper of Partying Maranto. He's never won a fight. He's never lost an after party. Get your tickets now. The Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame presents Glitz vs. Grits, January 13th. Get your tickets at lasportshall.com. That's lasportshall.com. And special thanks to the following sponsors.
All right, looking forward to it. That is this Friday night. All right, let's talk national championship game tonight. Programming note, 6:30 Central Time, 6:30 Central Time, TCU and Georgia. I was kind of anticipating a 7:15 start, something like that, but no.
Because they're out on the West Coast in L.A., and I've been scouring the internet this morning trying to get the actual kickoff time. Like LSU, when they send out the times of interest, they say 6 o'clock kick on ESPN, and you get the script, and the kick is 6:08. I mean, we do that with Rougarou games. We save a couple of minutes at the top, for some introductory stuff. So, everything is telling me that's a 6:30 kick. The main reason it's early is because they want the East Coast. They don't want it to be so late in the East Coast and all this, that, and the other. A lot of talk to, go back to Saturday night. College football is a Saturday thing. And it's because of the West Coast that this game is kicking 6:30 Louisiana time, according to all reports, not 6:40 or 6:42 or something like that. It's almost as dumb as North Dakota State and South Dakota State playing yesterday at 1 o'clock up against NFL Week 18 playoff implications in a lot of stadiums instead of playing that game Saturday at noon when you didn't have an NFL game till 3:30. I don't know. I know it's TV contracts, it's money, but somebody's got to think some of this stuff out a little better.
I mean, there's no reason why that game shouldn't have been, more high profile. I mean, just play the game at noon on Saturday and make a big deal. And that's bizarre to me. But North Dakota State,
I will say this: the stadium was packed as the fans from North Dakota to South Dakota, they flooded into Frisco, Texas, which is a suburb of Dallas.
So tonight's game, 13-point dog is TCU. The 63.5 to me is the thing I'm looking at because TCU's had a horseshoe. They've been fortunate to win, but they really looked impressive against Michigan, although Michigan gave them a couple of scores. But if I had to take it one way or the other, I think Georgia is the better team. I think Georgia's offense can score a good bit on TCU. The question becomes Georgia's defense. By reputation, people think that this is a good defense. But if you actually look at some of their bigger games, and particularly the last two games that they played, the defense hasn't looked that good. And so I'm torn on if they can fix things and what Georgia defense is going to show up. So I like the over in this one. I know, Tommy, you disagree with me, but I like the over. I think it's going to be a high-scoring affair. And it's going to be much like what these guys have played the last couple of games.
Well, I think it's going to go under. I don't think TCU is going to be part of the high-scoring affair. What if it's 40-17? It's an under game.
You think Georgia's going to blow them out?
The last four national championship games have been routes, more than two scores. Now, you got to go back to that Alabama-Clemson game that went down to the last play.
Well, Alabama-Georgia, too.
Yeah, but and then you look at the two semifinal games had always been kind of mismatches or tilted one way on the score, and then this past year it was the ones we saw last week completely opposite that, high scoring tight games that went down to the wire. So I guess that's why they call it gambling, Ronnie. We don't know for sure, but it's going to be an interesting game, and I'm like you. I think Georgia's the better team. I think the question is, what can the TCU offense do against the Georgia defense, and who wins the battle on the line of scrimmage, as always, will be important. And we'll have several picks posted at meatandpotatoesusa.com today, no later than 4 p.m. Those picks will be posted.
See, I thought that TCU moved the ball decently against Michigan. Obviously, TCU's quarterback has some moxie, and that's kind of the thing with the TCU quarterback is that I feel like he's just got some grit. He's got something special about him. That's what makes Duggan so good. And I thought TCU was a lot more physical on offense and defense against Michigan than we gave him credit for, because we consider Michigan with Harbaugh with those two tight ends and a big O-line and everything like that to be this physical team. But TCU stood toe-to-toe with them and with the physicality. And so I think they can bring that against Georgia, but I'm not going to bet this game real big. I'll put a little something on the over just to have a dog in the fight. But if I had to, I would take Georgia minus 13, and I would take the over, in my opinion. I think
there he is, Ronnie Reyes, ladies and gentlemen.
I think TCU gets to at least 24 points, and I think that Georgia gets to 40 points. So that's 64, and I think it can be more than that. So we shall see. Meatandpotatoesusa.com for your winning picks this afternoon. LSU basketball, we told you there'll be an action tomorrow night in the PMAC. There'll be a lot of coaching changes and hires and fires and all that sort of thing today. What will Aaron Rodgers do? He said in the press conference he needs some time to digest and get over this past season before he talks about his future. I'm looking to see if anything's broken here in the last couple of minutes. The Cleveland Browns have fired their defensive coordinator. The Arizona Cardinals have fired their general manager. We're waiting for the shoe to drop, of course, for their coach. But this is, kind of that Black Monday in the NFL, or maybe I guess tomorrow will probably be more Black Tuesday once you type of thing maybe or whatever. But Who do you think early on, you haven't digested anything, who do you think the Super Bowl matchup will be?
Wow, who do I think's the Super Bowl matchup? I gotta like the Chiefs. I mean,
Home
with the home field advantage, you gotta like the Chiefs, but don't count Joe Burrow out. A lot of people saying the Buccaneers might make some noise now that they're in, and they went in with a losing record. It's just I don't know. The Eagles, Jalen Hurts, not 100%, but he's going to have a week off with the bye to maybe heal up those bumps and bruises. I would think it's a Chiefs. Man, I don't know if 49ers are dangerous. There's a lot of NFL teams that they could maybe catch the spark or catch the lightning in a bottle. They could represent the NFC in the Super Bowl.
I don't know who is I don't know who is going to come out of the NFC per se, but whoever it is going to lose to the AFC. I mean, the NFC is not very good. I mean, I'm not buying the Eagles. Hurts being hurt, I'm not buying them even more. The Vikings, you talk about a horseshoe. I mean, the Vikings have had the biggest horseshoe all year long, the fortunate bounces for them. San Francisco, do you believe in Purdy? Do you believe in him? Are you buying him?
Can the Cowboys get it together?
Yeah, can the Cowboys, who played horrifically yesterday and haven't been very good on defense, can they bid it together? I don't know. I'm not buying this team. I think a lot of teams out of the AFC would beat teams out of the NFC. But if I have to pick one, I'm going to go with the Minnesota Vikings. They seem like they're living a charmed life this year. Kirk Cousins and the way the balls bounce for them, they got the best wide receiver in the league in Jefferson. So I'm going to say the Vikings against the Chiefs. That's going to be your Super Bowl matchup.
I like either the Vikings or the Cowboys will come out of the NFC because you look at the quarterbacks, they got a little more than Purdy has with Frisco, although Frisco, I think, can be a dangerous team. Should we count Tom Brady out? It's dangerous to do that,
I just don't think Tom Brady can play 3 good games to get him to the Super Bowl. That team's not very good. The thing I'll say about the Cowboys, if you're a Saints fan, you want to cheer for Tampa Bay. And I know that's hard to do because the last thing I want to see is Sean Payton be the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. I know he's going to be the head coach somewhere. I just don't want it to be in our division, and I don't want it to be against the Cowboys. Anywhere else I can live with.
I would think if the Cowboys lose to the Bucs, Jerry Jones makes a change. Now, if the Cowboys win that game, and if Peyton can't talk to the Broncos till the 17th, because he's still under contract with the Saints, obviously Harbaugh can talk to him right now if he wants. It's a different contractual situation in both directions. So, yeah, I'm like you. We'll see what happens. It's going to be an interesting couple of weeks.
Don't want to see Sean Payton go to Dallas, man. So come on, Tom. You got one more in you. Go ahead, get you a win and end that crap. So I mean, I'm sorry. I'm going the other way. I need Dallas to win. Excuse me. My goodness. I need Dallas to win.
Yeah.
So they keep stays in Dallas and Sean Payton doesn't go there. So I need Dallas to win. I need Dak Prescott, who's not been very good lately, to become good. I need Tampa Bay to realize we're a bad team. We're below 500. We don't belong here. The Saints should have beaten us, and they need to play like that. I don't know. We shall see. All right, we'll be back on Wednesday for more Sports Shorts Daily. He's Tommy Krysan over at Court Street Cafe. Before we get out of here, tell us about Court Street Cafe.
Well, they're doing a fundraiser this Saturday for the Gill family and the Dunn family, the 2 young girls that were killed in that automobile accident back on New Year's Eve. So tip of the hat to Jason and the staff here. They're giving all of the proceeds from a crawfish bisque sale to the fund that's been created for those families. So tip of the hat to them. But breakfast, lunch, dinner, 7 days a week. The Sunday brunch was a big hit yesterday. It always is. Lunch specials, dinner specials. Connect with Court Street Cafe, Facebook and Instagram. They're in Port Allen. Didn't take me but a handful of minutes to get over the bridge and get here today. Nice patio out front. Court Street Cafe in Port Allen. We want you to check them out as soon as you can.
All right. Well, looking forward. We'll be back on Wednesday. We'll be talking national championship game, and we'll talk a lot more playoffs as that starts on Saturday. For Tommy Krysan, I'm Ronnie Rance. Please like and share this video. And don't forget to get your tickets at lasportshall.com.